All right, good afternoon. Thank you again for being here. My name is Amy Constam. I'm a volunteer board member for PPS and a parent in this district and serve as the chair of this charter committee. Our fellow board members on this committee are Paul Anthony and Scott Bailey. We also have two other board members here, Mike Rosen and Julia Brim Edwards. We, as I'm sure all of you know, held our meeting of the Charter Committee where we went through the data and the plan of improvement for Trillium, and we heard from your administrators. We had a good dialogue, I think, with Jamie and Patrice and learned a lot more about your school. The Charter Committee did move at that time, as you all know, to accept staff's recommendation to revoke the charter status for Trillium. And so as a response to that, by state statute, this is the public hearing where we have an opportunity to hear from you about your experiences with the school. It's very prescribed by charter and by our rules as the governing body. So we will get underway. I also want to thank the administration of Trillium and the students, some of whom I see here, for welcoming me last week very openly and really helping to give me personally a much deeper sense of your school. And thank you for your time very much and for just being so honest and open. So we are going to hear from our charter schools office. We have Karina Wolf, who is the director of multiple pathways for Portland Public Schools, which oversees our charter office, and Tara O'Neill, who oversees our charter schools and is facilitating this process. So thank you both.
Thank you. Good afternoon. So just as an opening statement, just to reference us in statute as to just what Director Constam had begun to share. So sponsors of public charter schools in Oregon are tasked with holding charter schools accountable for certain outcomes based in Oregon state standards, Oregon Charter Law ORS 338, and the charter school's contract with its sponsor. Though charter school performance is reviewed and reviewed for renewal at 5 to 10 year intervals, PPS charter schools are also evaluated annually on academic achievement, financial stability, and organizational sustainability through the annual performance framework and report. Per the PPS contract with its charter schools, Section E1E states, if the charter school fails to meet any performance benchmark set forth in its annual performance framework and report or its accountability plan for 2 consecutive school years, a plan of action will be initiated. If after these steps are completed and reasonable goals are not met within an additional calendar year from when the steps are developed, this may be grounds for termination, end quote. Additionally, as noted in Oregon's charter school law, Oregon 338.105, grounds for terminating a charter include, quote, failure to meet the requirements for student performance stated in the charter, as well as, quote, failure to maintain financial stability. Trillium Charter School implemented an action plan of improvement in 2017-18 after reporting 2 consecutive years of failing achievement in grades 3 through 8 math and in certain special populations, grades 3 through 8 English language arts. In addition, Trillium Charter School has experienced significant decline in enrollment for 2 consecutive years, resulting in a greater than 40% reduction in enrollment and consequently in revenue. The results of Trillium's plan of improvement were reported as part of the 2017-18 Oregon Report Card and 2017-18 Performance Framework and Report, and were summarized in the improvement plan and past performance summary submitted at the February 8th Board Charter School Committee meeting. At that meeting, a staff recommendation was made to terminate the charter with Trillium Charter School effective June 30th, 2019, based on failure to meet student performance requirements and failure to maintain financial stability. Per Oregon 338.105-2A, Trillium received written notification of intent to terminate the charter on February 13th, 2019, stating the grounds for termination and was offered this public hearing per OAR 581-026-055-0500 Section 4, following this public hearing, the PPS Board of Education will make a final decision whether to terminate the charter with Trillium Charter School effective June 30th, 2019 at a public meeting on February 26, 2019. And now we would welcome Trillium Charter School to present and provide additional information.
Thank you very much. Come on up.
I have more people to join me.
Okay, whomever.
Angel, Jamie, and Safia.
So as I think you know, Patrice, this is 10 minutes, right?
10 minutes.
Yep.
Have a seat. Jamie. We need another chair. Okay. Thank you, PPS Board. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, wonderful. I'm going to read a little statement. Do you mind scrolling through this very slowly? It's a PDF. And then I have two student speakers that are going to speak during my time. Okay. Thank you. So I'm just doing a little brief introduction, talk about some of our challenges, address some of the indicators of success, ask you a couple of questions, and express my gratitude for this opportunity, and then give time for my students to have a little testimony. Okay, so my name is Patrice Mays. I'm the Executive Director of Trillium Charter School. Through the years, Trillium has overcome its challenges. My proudest achievement is not wavering in my commitment on student academic success, increased social supports, and educational equity. I have done remarkably well given the little support that I have been provided by this district. I want all students to succeed, no matter how they show up, and so that they get a meaningful education. I'm not a fan of the big political, adult-centered conversation around our current educational climate that permeates the conversation. I believe there are a variety of educational models and systems and approaches that work to meet a variety of learning needs. I believe that comprehensive neighborhood schools don't always work for everyone. Trillium is a student-centered community that serves some of the most sensitive, vulnerable students in the city. In our community, students feel loved, supported, recognized, affirmed, accepted, and able to learn. Our families would be devastated without this educational home. They need the school because their students have been ignored, bullied, over-disciplined elsewhere. Many of our students identify on the LGBTQ spectrum, and they have family, and they are affirmed. PPS is a tough decision to make. You guys have talked about our academics, you've talked about our financial challenges, and I'm sure you want to demonstrate PPS's commitment as a board to equity and inclusion. But I ask you guys, how can this be achieved by those of you who sit before me? How is the district disrupting the school-to-prison pipeline, and how does your representation matter in this decision? PPS has a track record for setting up Black school administrators and setting them up to fail with unrealistic expectations. In my situation specifically, PPS leadership has ignored my request for repeated SPED support, for getting the test maps implemented in a timely fashion, and request for an additional time to implement and get started as an executive director. I was an interim executive director last year, and this year I was appointed to be the executive director. The people who held leadership positions then and now were all white. Some of them still work for PPS today. This is happening in a city that celebrates being the whitest city in America. You have demonstrated to me that you do not want me to succeed by not supporting me. And from my analysis, we are the low-hanging fruit in this fight. We're an easy target, we're pretty vulnerable. The real fight exists at the district, and how will you interrupt the prison to pipeline, a school to prison pipeline? And how will you interrupt the perpetuance of institutionalized racism? Closing my school down doesn't achieve that. Matter of fact, you remove a growing group of parents who have committed to participating in monthly racial equity meetings that set forth to address the racism that exists in our institution. You remove a community that sees itself as different and sees that difference as its biggest strength. The previous executive director had 6 years to increase student performance. Why am I being held accountable for that? I'm a product of this district, and I am a former SPED student. I want to thank the parents who have taken the time to show up. I want to thank the board members who are sitting before me. I want to thank the former founders who have showed up and the former students who have showed up. I thank you for the parents who have been calling, researching, prodding, and poking the district. What we need is additional time. I need additional time. I haven't been given the same time as my predecessor, and he was not held accountable and held to the same standard as myself. So why did I only get 6 months to implement a plan as an interim executive director without the necessary support? And why don't I have maps? I'm sorry, I just went off on a tangent. Keep going.
It's all right.
One more, keep going. So why was my white male predecessor given 5 years to fail this school? And why am I only given 6 months to get this right? There is race in this question. One more. Why don't I have maps? I've asked for maps. It was offered to me. It's not been implemented. Why has it been such a challenge for me to get support with SPED? My only focus and reason for being here is to support our students and to see our school increase in its academic performance and to help the board at my school meet its budgetary needs. I want to give you guys a chance to talk. I'm going to have Angel and Safia speak for the rest of my time.
Ms. Ms. Mays, can you please provide your written testimony
I
to
will.
the board
I
secretary
will.
so we all have it? Thanks.
I will.
Hello, my name is Safia Ridgely. I'm a 7th grader at Trillium. I'm also the secretary and an acting voting member of the Middle School Student Council. I'm here today to speak to you about our school closing. First of all, I would like to mention how incredibly welcoming Trillium is. I came to Trillium about 2 years ago. Like many other kids at Trillium, I didn't fit in and was bullied at my previous school. On the morning of February 28th, 2017, I was dreading life. I had gone to one school for 5.5 years and had to start a new life at a new school. When I walked into that classroom, the first thing I heard was, "Can I give you a tour?" It was coming from 2 students in the class. That is something I will never forget. I also want to say that we learned so much at our school. Test scores cannot reflect the 5-page journal entry we wrote in science about our lives if a plague outbreak had hit Portland, or how amazing our math teacher is at explaining stuff to us, or the news reflection sheets that we fill out every English class, or the incredibly in-depth history lessons that we get. The premise that test scores and work samples are the only thing that affect our education is completely false and unfair. I sincerely hope you make the right decision and keep the amazing environment that is our school open. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Angel. I am a freshman at Trillium Charter School, and I'm also a member of DUTS, which is a high school-oriented sort of group that handles the upper school, some of the upper school affairs like proms and dances and other forms of things like that. And
How did your dance go?
our last dance was actually the Monster Mash for Halloween, which went pretty well. Honestly, I wasn't actually a member of DUTS back then, but then I joined afterwards, where right now we're planning the winter formal.
Oh, I thought that was last weekend.
And that's actually going pretty well. Anyway, when I first walked into Trillium, I was not like how I am now, which is actually a vast improvement to how I was before I came to Trillium. I grew up in a pretty bad home, so I didn't really have room to emotionally grow or gain any social skills without the help of my new family and the members of Trillium and all their students. When I first walked into Trillium, I remember, because I am a male to female trans student, when I walked up the stairs for the tour that I received, a student walked up to me and said, and complimented the dress that I wore that day. And that painted a very colorful picture of what I should expect from Trillium. And they did not fail to meet those expectations that I had felt on that day. And I felt myself grow into a much, much more stronger individual who's able to function in society because of the support of Trillium and its students and staff. And also, I have been able to improve academically compared to the past because of their patience and their willingness to show me how to do things at a pace that I can understand instead of conforming to really hardcore methods that I've grown up being used to.
So I'm assuming the yellow light means that we don't have enough time.
Yeah,
Okay. Well, I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you guys for taking
thank
the
you
time
very much.
to your presentation.
Karen, are you calling people up by name for testimony, or?
I have a list here. Give it to you, Karen.
Okay, so what the prescribed process is that we have opportunities for people who support the recommendation and people who are opposed to the recommendation. So on our agenda, we have first an opportunity for 20 minutes of testimony from people in opposition to the testimony. Excuse me, to the recommendation from staff in opposition to revoking the charter. So, Karen, is it the expectation that people will just find their way?
Actually, you had the reverse.
Okay. Okay, so whomever wants to come forward to speak in opposition to the school remaining open, we'll do it that way. Please come forward. Is there anyone here? In opposition to the school remaining open, so supporting the staff recommendation from the district. All right. We'll ask again at the end of the session, but so however you want to handle this, we have 20 minutes of testimony from people who want to come forward in support of the school. Patrice?
Just a point of clarification, should nobody stand up to be in opposition, could we then absorb that time for people that are in support of the school staying open?
We have a lot more testimony.
I know, just 1 second. I need to,
Historically, that is what has happened, which is why we actually put the opposition in first.
okay,
If
okay,
there's not-
then absolutely,
Okay,
yep,
thank you.
absolutely.
Thank you. So we'll start
Okay.
with our list.
Great, Pearl and Leah, do you want to go together, or would you like to go by yourselves? Oh, great. Thanks, Joe. Thank you also for your flexibility as we figure this process out.
Thank you all for being here. Yes. Okay. And just state your name first.
Hi, my name's Leah Claus. Go ahead. This is Pearl Claus.
Don't be scared, Pearl, it's okay.
Do you want to speak
You look
first?
kind of nervous.
Okay. I would like to ask that the board votes to keep Trillium open. It's really important to my daughter and my son who's not in attendance today. My daughter was in the Mandarin immersion program at King's School for kindergarten and first grade. She was told numerous times by the teaching staff there that she was a bad student, she was a bad child. She hated school and she acted out, and I was called almost daily. She got into Trillium for second grade. She started there as an empty shell, and she had a reading level of a kindergartner. She didn't trust any adult because all of them at King's School had told her she was bad, and she truly believed it. Her teacher believed in her at Trillium, and she made her believe in herself. Trillium's constructivism model allowed the unique approach that a traditional classroom wouldn't have allowed by giving her space and time to trust the adults instead of forcing her to conform to the traditional model. By the second semester of second grade, she had not only started reading, but she had surpassed a 5th to 6th grade reading level. She loved reading. She continued reading right into her 3rd grade year, which is her current grade, and her reading and math levels are off the charts currently. She loves attending school and can't stand staying home, even for a snow day. Our recent snow day, she kept saying, "Can't you just call the school and ask them to open it?" This is a child that I struggled every day to get to attend King's School. I know Paul Anthony, I talked to him about the troubles that we had at King's School. I can't imagine trying to find another school like Trillium. This school year, I saw her teacher gracefully handle conflicts amongst the students using restorative justice and coming full circle to involve the parents in the process. It was powerful to see the students really connect back with one another and heal their relationships and be able to work with one another. Trillium's teachers are teaching the students valuable life lessons that go above and beyond academics, teaching compassion for others and conflict resolution. This year, teachers and parents have really started forming a strong community, which you can see here, that is trying hard to not only help out the school, but to reach out and help each other. I see it every day in the hallways. Like I said, I'm deeply concerned about finding the right fit for my daughter in another public school within PPS if you close Trillium. Our neighborhood school is Woodlawn, and I know other parents that go there that are having troubles with the bullying that is occurring with their children and with the SPED department. And my daughter is on an IEP, and their children there are on IEPs, and their needs are not being met. Please, I urge you to keep Trillium open. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for your letter.
Hello, my name is Paul Claus. And when I first came to Trillium, I was just scared. Because a lot of kids at my old school used to be really mean. I expected the same. But then, after about a week or two, I made a lot of friends. And one of the nicest things somebody did to me in that first week was they offered me a little tour of our school. And all the kids are nice. There's no bullying. And when I needed help, they gave. Thank you for your time.
Thanks. Thanks, Pearl. Welcome.
Hello, I'm Neil Noble. I'm the Math Curriculum and Intervention Specialist. I was just brought in this school year, so I haven't had a lot of time to affect these math scores people are concerned about. I'm about to read from the 2017 Consolidated State Plan of Oregon, because the school district, according to the state plan, has some responsibilities for helping with schools that are struggling, and these were not done, according to what I'm about to read here. Oregon is shifting from punitive shame and blame systems of school improvement that existed under No Child Left Behind and the Elementary and Secondary Education Act flexibility waiver process to one focused on local state partnerships, equity, and a well-rounded education under the Every Student Succeeds Act. In other words, away from one-size-fits-all punitive approach. Oregon's new model focuses on a far more comprehensive diagnostic approach to school improvement. The process begins with an in-depth need assessment that reviews state and local data, is informed by local educators and community, and identifies student needs, district and community assets, and areas for growth. Once this process is complete, the state acts as a partner with the district to design and track the implementation of interventions to meet the needs of students in the local community. With this shift comes opportunity to evaluate a new approach to district and school improvement. By the law of ESSA and the state of Oregon's 2017 Consolidated State Plan, and now this is just me, this isn't what they've got written, I'm about to get back to that. These are key district responsibilities and were supposed to continue for 4 years, scaled back as the model becomes more sustainable. These were not done. District and school readiness assessments and deeper diagnostics help solidify root causes and barriers to success. That's the identify part. Implement. Interventions will be selected and implementation plans will be created and submitted for acceptance. Support mechanisms will be leveraged. ODE and district monitoring, how are schools doing routines, will be instituted to monitor progress. Another thing that's not done. Problem solving and decision-making routines are applied to ensure progress. Adjustments are managed in a timely fashion. Their schedule starts 2017 to 2018, goes to 2021 to 22. Nowhere in their plan have I come across anything about closing schools. At 2021-22, it does talk about reset. Continued data assembly or data review and assessment and robust stakeholder engagement. Again, I'm reading from the state plan. Was supposed to happen in August, September, did not. It was supposed to happen again in October, November. This is of 2017, did not. December 2017, again, did not. February of this year is supposed to still be going on. In March, continue needs assessment with newly available data, review of personnel, budgeting, and planning for upcoming year. And in July of this year, there's supposed to be a final summation of needs assessment and emerging improvement priorities. But I want to talk about the math test, because that's why we're here. You see up here, let's start with the math test. Valid or reliable? I'll hold that up, Stacy. Sure. Thank you. Math tests, are they valid or reliable? 32 states were doing smarter balanced exams. 32 states, smarter balanced exam. It's down to 13 now. That tells me all I need to know about whether the test is valid and reliable. As far as math scores go, 50% are at the level 3 or 4 in the Portland Public School District. In Oregon, it's 40%, and across the United States, students that score proficient or above is only 32%. So, oh, you go ahead and close out, thank you. So you want Trillium to discover on its own, without the help of the experts that Oregon Department of Education says they will make available. You want us to discover the cure for what ails students in math. Well, Trillium says, okay, we'll do that. But it is going to take more than the 6 months we have been given to do what the entire U.S. has been unable to do for 30 years.
Yes. Yes.
So we are here because of our math scores. Even though the state plan says that students can still graduate even if they do not score at a level 3 or 4 in math. You are saying to students that students need to score at a level 3 or 4 to keep the school open. That's math that just does not add up.
Yes. Who's next, Muffy? Lori Masters?
Who's next after that? You should start lighting them up.
Hi, I'm Lori Masters. My two children are in the upper school, and my two children are on the spectrum. And although they've been on the spectrum, I've been searching for the right place for them. They have an IEP, they've been on 504, and when they were in elementary school, they went to their local school, and that was fine. But once they got into middle school, the middle school and the high schools were just too large for them. Academically, they could always do their work. It was the social part, it was the environmental part. I was having a hard time finding the right environment for them. And I found that right environment in Trillium. And when I found Trillium, I was actually living in Florida. I moved here from Florida for my children to attend Trillium. That's how important it is to parents to have a school like Trillium. So, when they started in 2016 at Trillium, it was hard. It was different, but it was wonderful at the same time. One of my children, Patrice had noticed, we didn't know the first semester if it was gonna be okay because of all the things other schools had done to her, what had happened. But very next semester, she was the one giving the tours to all the other students that were coming in. She's now the one on DUTS. She's the one that is going around the school smiling to everybody. They are so involved. They are thriving. And you can also imagine moving all the way across the country to come to this school when all of now we're going through transitions here at Trillium. You can imagine as a parent thinking, wow, I just moved all the way across the country. We're going through staff turnovers. What is happening? You know, I'm hearing the school might close down. Did I make this huge mistake in coming here? But I know that I didn't because I look at what my children, how they've come alive. And all the time that the so-called transitions and the problems that everybody's been talking about or that's been in the media about Trillium, not one day did my children suffer. Not one day did it affect them. Each day, their education at Trillium was just as it should be. Their teachers are so amazing. Not one day did their teachers not focus on my children. Not one day did their academics suffer at all. There wasn't any hiccups or anything. Trillium is such a special and amazing place, and I don't know where my children are going to go if Trillium closes down. And yes, my children are college bound. They've come so far in their journey, and Trillium is a part of that. And there are so many other parents at Trillium, and their stories are just like mine. And this is such a place that just needs to stay open because it does so much for so many students that are just like my kids. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Isaiah Jackson. I'm the head of the Student Support Department at Trillium. Together with a team of student support specialists, our department cares for the social, emotional, and behavioral aspects of a healthy school and community. As a grown professional who really struggled with school from a young age due to the intersection of various socioeconomic and traumatic aspects of my childhood, I'm incredibly passionate about supporting this dimension of each student's life. Over the years, Trillium has become known as a school that supports these needs where other schools do not. We have become a magnet for students who are not successful at other schools many of whom saw no future for themselves in education. This is so because of Trillium's unique emphasis on social-emotional learning as a vital part of their academic performance and success. And we're not just doing this on a hunch. All of the most recent research in the field of behaviorism and academics demonstrates that social-emotional competence is the #1 predictor of student success. Support for this learning begins in the classroom. Teachers are trained in restorative justice practices and in trauma-informed care at the beginning of the school year, and they continue to receive support and coaching and fostering a safe and loving classroom environment throughout the year. We believe that at the root of all student misbehavior is relationships. Yes. If a student feels isolated and disconnected from their teachers, administrators, and peers, they are much more likely to act out. We build this community and deepen these relationships through community building circles like the one Amy had the privilege of attending while she was viewing our school. But when a student is having a difficult time following the rules or getting along with others, instead of suspending them, instead of punishing them and making them feel bad for themselves, what they do is they take a visit to the student support room, where they're given the care and attention that they need to build the skills that they need to be successful. We work with them individually, one-on-one, and in groups to work on specific behavioral issues that they're experiencing. I want you to take, for instance, a queer student who transferred to our school midway through her high school career. She'd been out of school for months because the public education system, the general public education system, had failed to protect her. But because of her resilience and the support of Trillium teachers and staff, she's now flourishing, receiving nearly all A's in all of her classes. Or my grade school friend who for a number of reasons struggles to sit still in class and disrupts others, who at any other school would be suspended continually till he was expelled. Instead, he was assigned a mentor, and he receives the one-on-one attention that he needs to succeed and is doing a lot better. And what I want to know is, where will these students go after they receive, where they will receive access to the same level of care and support? How will you serve our trans kids, our non-neurotypical kids, our kids of color, our traumatized students, our queer students, most of whom have tried traditional forms of education with no success? These are the things that I really need you to consider. Consider these students who have finally found a home and a community. What type of message are you sending them about their worth and their future by shutting down the one school that finally made them feel as though they are worthy and capable of success?
So I came to Trillium on the first day, and I graduated 12 years later. I went to a 4-year college, and now I'm working full-time and have a place of my own. I got straight A's in high school. I was on the high school ultimate frisbee team since 7th grade till senior year. I was the captain coach for 3 of those years, led us to 2 championships. When I came into Trillium, people would have said that I was hyperactive, that I didn't like listening to other people telling me what to do, that I was hard to work with. And that was true. That's why I came to Trillium. Basically, here's an example that'll help understand. In 2nd grade, I was just playing with the other kids, and then the teacher told us to come to the other room, into the group. And it felt like a loaded question. It was like, you want to come to the room with the kids? And I felt like I didn't know how she would respond. It felt like it could have been the only one right answer. And that's what it would have been at a traditional school. But no, she said, you can stay in the other room, that's fine. And you can come in there to join us if you want. And so I played on my own, and then I made the choice to join the group. That is so significant, and not just one instance, that's just an example. If that happens over time, kids lose their power of self-determinism. And it's not just about that choice to join the group, it's about your education. if you have the choice, like I did a couple other times, so I was at advanced in math when I came to the school. I worked with in first grade, I worked with the third and fourth graders on math at the level that I was at. That would not have been available at another school. In 10th grade, I had a situation where I was doing 25 math problems on a question that I obviously understood. The math teacher knew this. I told that to her. I was like, can we do something to work with this? And she said, well, yeah, okay. Maybe if I could do less. And we figured out 5, and I still showed her the product, and I did well. Obviously got straight A's in high school, and I had the power to determine my own education. I had the ability to actually take control of that, and had the motivation, therefore, to continue that through the rest of my life. If I had that power taken away from an early age, over time, that would build up, and I would lose that motivation because it was for someone else's idea of what the right method is, someone else's idea of what the right answer is. That is so essential to Trillium, and it transformed my life. If I had gone to another school, I would have had power struggles day after day because I wanted to do something different. And I would be told repeatedly, like others have said before me, that that was wrong, and I would have felt wrong as a person. In Trillium, that's not the case. And that is why it's so important. I've seen it 12 years, and I'm a product of what it can create. And now I'm helping society to become better. And I will continue to do so, and I'm motivated to keep learning and keep seeing new perspectives. And I will continue to create that because of what Trillium's helped me to do. That's why it should stay open.
Hi. Hi. My name is Sonia. I'm a parent of 2 children that are currently at Trillium. I also moved from Florida looking for a place like Trillium. At the beginning, I found a different school. It was a private school, academically incredible, but it didn't provide the environment that my children needed. My son just now started enjoying being in school, and he's the one with the yellow boots that just took off with the teacher. That's like his second mom at this point in time. We just started this year. My daughter's first words when she came to Trillium was like, "Mommy, everybody is my friend." And she had never before experienced that, right? But I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about the report that's being used to make a recommendation to close the school. In the report, it stated that the school has poor performance, and it's obvious that it has had poor performance since before the administration. A lot of administrative changes were made, which is also part of the report in terms of the weaknesses of the school. However, what's not being acknowledged is that upon the change of that administration, the statistics and production actually started reverting in the school, and that is shown in the report. The report says that there's a year worth of improvement plan recorded. However, the improvement plan did not start until January of 2018, and the numbers shown in the evaluation are from 2017. So you are adding 6 months worth of production that was not part of the improvement plan, right? So as part of that, I asked, first of all, give our administration more time to show that the work can actually be done, as it's already been reflected by her work that you've accounted for 6 months of, right? Secondly, I question as a parent, what support has the school actually received in order to make this improvement plan successful? I did some research, and I found out that there, in the PPS adopted budget for 2017 to 18, it shows 5% of the general budget fund to go to charter schools for support, stating that it's related to costs for the districts, for student costs for districts, right, for charter schools. But I question what was actually done with that 5% in terms of Trillium in this charter school. How did that money go into place? That's about, I'm rounding, but it's about $30 million allocated for this. There's only 7 charter schools in the district, so that would have been about $5 million for this one charter school if you guys distributed this evenly. $5 million is a lot of money. Where did that money go? How did the support come through to actually help in the success of this improvement plan, for which, by the way, you're only accounting 6 months of, right? Secondly, you say that there's growing organizational and financial concerns. Like Patrice said earlier, there was an earlier administration that was allowed to actually poorly perform for over 5 years, right? The fact that that was allowed to occur is factually a problem, right? I'm behind you on that. But why is it that we're suddenly reacting when this one administration is effectively serving the community that it represents. I don't quite understand that. Thirdly, you talk about the school enrollments, which is actually a problem. I looked at the numbers, you're actually right. But common sense tells you that after 6 years of poorly performing school, your enrollment numbers will be affected. 6 months of record to reverse the enrollment, it's not sufficient. We need a little bit more time, and it can be done. You know, we're talking, you know, I'm a business person. I have a consulting company. So when I look at the numbers, all we need is an effective marketing plan, get the students and these stories, amazing stories, written down and in front of the public, and those enrollment numbers will reverse. We just need a little bit more time. So, so here it is. My solution and recommendation is that the staff recommendation to close the school due to concerns regarding Trillium's academic performance, etc., be rejected, as these concerns are mostly based on prior school performance and fail to recognize recent improvements in the areas. It is apparent from observation and reporting that the school is actively and arduously working on turning around a scene that has been steadily in decline for 5 years. That the situation was allowed to get this far is in fact a problem. I cannot deny that. However, that measures are being taken that will result in improvement over time is a fact. The estimation of effort and targeting needs to be reevaluated, and clear targets and goals should be set that will allow the school to be held accountable for its progress, both short-term and long-term. I ask that the district provides coaching and support and aid to make this happen. Trillium Charter School has strengths in that it effectively creates an environment for children to grow without attempting to alter their individuality. Faculty interact with the students, granting them dignity and respect not often observed in the public school system. Trillium fosters culture of high responsibility, awareness of others' needs, and a sense of mutual collaboration which cannot be measured through academic testing, but are by far more valuable to a society, especially in recent times. Trillium is helping children develop into successful members of a community and society, responsible adults that are capable of engaging in life in a way that brings about community and strength. Those qualities should not go unnoticed and should be given weight in your decision-making process. This is not just about you closing the school. This is about a woman of color that just took on office that's working really hard to turn this scene around. And it's about the LGBTQ community that will be underserved and not representative in the existing public school system. That's it.
Hi, my name is Katie Richley. You just saw my daughter speak. She started at Trillium 2 years ago. She was at a school that had exemplary test scores, full enrollment, a waiting list on top of that. It was a nice school. It was not a good fit for her. Socially, she did not fit in well. She did not have a lot of friends. No fault of her own, but it was not a good fit. Academically, she was apathetic, sometimes frustrated. She wasn't seen as a star pupil. She wasn't given accolades. When she struggled, I was told her test scores were too good, so she didn't need extra assistance. She was pretty checked out academically. So I decided to switch her to Trillium right before middle school, anticipating the social emotional consequences of a kid in a school that was not a good fit. And when she started 2 years ago, it was chaotic. Frankly. Pretty quickly I thought, what did I do? I was trying to make things better, but this is pretty chaotic. So I held my breath last year when she started school, thought I would see how it went. And pretty quickly I saw changes. When she was bullied, I called the school. They responded appropriately, both following PPS's guidelines, but also more importantly, implementing restorative justice. They met with me, multiple staff talked to me, they talked to my daughter, they talked with the other student that was involved, and I was amazed that the bullying stopped. In my experience, giving kids consequences, discipline, doesn't usually stop bullying. It was the restorative justice, I believe, that did that. What I started to see was a student who started to flourish academically, a student who found her voice, who felt that her teachers were listening to her, who learned that she had something to say. I would say she's become almost a perfectionist. She works really hard. She is really motivated, and she shines. It is wonderful to see, and I would hate to see her lose that opportunity. This year, there's been a real turnaround. I know you keep hearing that, but you have to be in the school to see it. It feels different. The change in administration has been profound, and frankly, I'm not sure that I would ever anticipate that a school could change as much as it has in the last 2 years under the new administration. That's not to say that it's perfect. That's not to say that sometimes it is not chaotic. But it is to say that there have been really profound changes for the better. And I would ask you to listen to the multiple stories that you've heard today of students who have not done as well in traditional school environments. And I would ask you to think about, how are you going to accommodate our kids? They haven't needed accommodations in the same way at Trillium because Trillium's viewed them as individuals. They haven't viewed their behaviors as problems. Oftentimes students haven't necessarily needed 504Bs or IEPs because the school just works with them. They're just seen as kids, which is wonderful. So I would encourage you to keep the school open. I would encourage you to give them more time. My sense from talking to Patrice and to talking with other teachers is that they want to improve, that they're working hard, that they're training, that they're meeting with each other, and that they will continue to be accountable to our students. So I ask that you give them that chance.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kelly Shaw, and I am the board president at Trillium Charter School. I also am a parent who was at Trillium for over 15 years. So starting in 2004, I was looking for a school for my daughter. She had been traumatized by her local school, just as I had been traumatized by my local school, just as my son had been traumatized, and I couldn't do it anymore. So I found Trillium. It was a wonderful fit for her. Not at first, I have to admit. It was something new. It was something different. And it was something terrifying for all of us. But let me tell you what happened to my then 7th grader, who is now a city deputy auditor. She went through that school not knowing anyone and in a shambles, to the point where I had taken her out of public schools and homeschooled her for over a year. Our neighborhood school was Martin Luther King, where I had attended, where her brother had attended, and it was a nightmare. Sent her to Trillium, she was shut down, she was terrified, and she couldn't function. But because of things that we learned at Trillium and the freedom to do what she needed to do, she healed in the first 6 months of that school, the first semester of that school. By the middle of her 7th grade year, she found a voice. By the time she made it to 8th grade, she was a different child. By the time she made it to high school, no one recognized her. By the time she got to her junior year, she was taking college classes before this wonderful program that we now have at Jefferson High School existed. Trillium allowed that to happen for her and a bunch of other children. By the time I had my last child, who started in kindergarten at Trillium Charter School, who walked in the door learning how to peer mediate as a kindergartner. That was a wonderful thing. Found his voice at Trillium. By the way, was not a he when he walked in that door, was a she. And because of the wonderful things that he learned at Trillium, by the time he hit middle school, decided I can be who I am and transitioned at Trillium. That's because Trillium gave him his voice. He, and along with many other students at Trillium, decided, hey, wait a minute, we need some equity in the school in a lot of different ways. They decided, hey, our bathrooms, let's start there. And because of the democratic process that they have learned, they decided to make genderless bathrooms there. They learn things at Trillium that other schools, our neighborhood schools, would not allow them to learn. So it's not all about the books and the reading and the writing, though that is important and I know that, but it's supported by everything else that they have learned there. My son transitioned there all through middle school, and it was wonderful for him. Because of that, he is now a freshman at his neighborhood school, yes, because that was his choice. He could either stay at Trillium or go to his local high school. He made that choice, and he found his voice to do so. His mother became incredibly involved at Trillium and is still involved with Trillium because I believe in that school. Because I believe 15 plus years later that it's important for my voice to be there. What do I do there? Some of everything. I've been on the TFT, our version of PTA. I lead the board there. I also lead a monthly equity group there because it's important that we teach not just our children, but our parents and our teachers there. I lead restorative justice groups there because everyone is important at Trillium, from the youngest kindergartner and our preschoolers to the high schooler to every parent. It's about community. It's about everyone being involved. So being there is not just one person, it's everyone. I know that doesn't happen at the neighborhood school because 50 plus years of living in Portland, Oregon, and watching what has happened in every neighborhood school that I attended, that my other children have attended, I know what happens. I know exactly what happens when you don't fit in. And I know what happens at Trillium. Is it perfect? By no means. And I don't delude myself in that. But what I do know is we have our own version of perfection there. And I ask you to allow us to continue perfecting what we do best, and that's serving those who have not fit in anywhere else, who continue to need us to cater to them in every way possible, to serve them, to be one with whom they are, to grow. Because my son today speaks out in ways that would amaze you. And he is going to be one day where you are and helping you get to your next phase of life. Allow these children behind me and those to come behind them to be those people. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi. So I am Beth Hutchins, and I'm the administrator at Opal Charter School. So I'm not inside the school. I've loved hearing the testimony from the students, and I think I want to bring two messages to you from a different perspective. One of them is that these are very small sample sizes when you look at the statistics, and what you're hearing is the anecdotal evidence of looking at individual children, which is what Trillium does really well. You're hearing from them, and I think when the numbers are really small in each grade, it's hard to draw conclusions from state tests for which parents have the right to opt some of their children out. So you're hearing these stories, and I think that they need to speak as loud or louder than the statistics that you're seeing around test scores. So that's one thing. I really have enjoyed hearing the stories. The other piece around statistics is that there's an assumption that these particular children and students at a different school would have different test scores. And I think you're hearing in their testimony that they're very unique, and what they've found at their school is something that they might not find at another school. I think they might say likely not find at another school, and that their test scores might not look like the other school's test scores. They might look a lot worse, because we all know that the social emotional learning and the safe environment that they found is really important. So that's the one thing. The other thing I want to say is that as an administrator at a charter school, there's not very many people who understand what this job is. And I got to meet Patrice a little over a year ago when she stepped into this role in really, really difficult circumstances. And I've watched her as she has stepped up over and over again to try and figure out what this community needs to heal and to move forward. And I heard earlier folks talking about the short time span for the improvement plan, and that's all real. And I would just like to say, as someone who sits in those shoes and came in mid-year to a school that was not in crisis, and how hard it was to learn all of the pieces. You folks, it's boring, but there's a bunch of compliance stuff that you just got to do, and try and change a pattern that she'd inherited. And I think she's done an amazing job. And I think it would be really sad to not give this administration and this school a little bit more time. Thank you.
Thanks, Beth.
Hello, my name is Vanessa. I am a parent of an 8th grader at Trillium. We are a brand new family at Trillium. My son spent the beginning of this school year at our local middle school, and he experienced grotesque bullying that broke my heart, and it just kept repeating and repeating. And I went to the principal and administrators at the school, and it was not dealt with at all. So I wrote a letter to the school board to get my son transferred. And I got this letter back. Dear Ms. White, thank you for contacting the Enrollment and Transfer Center regarding concerns about your student's placement. After careful consideration of the information you have provided, we have determined that your situation qualifies as an extraordinary hardship that would be improved through a transfer. However, at this time, there is no space available to accommodate your request. So when I got that letter, needless to say, I felt destitute, I felt hopeless. I did not want to put him back into the school what I was trying to take him out of. So I got this letter over the winter break. So the first day back to school, I asked him, I said, do you want to go back to the school? He says, no. I said, okay. So I get in my car and I started driving around trying to figure out what am I going to do. And then I'm just driving around, and Trillium is not far from my home. And so I'm just driving, and as I'm driving, I'm like, wait, there's a school, Trillium, down on the interstate. Let me just check that out real quick. And I'm like, no, it's a charter school. It's super hard to get in. I'm probably not going to get in. They have a waiting list. So I said, you know what? You don't have nothing to lose right now. You're at rock bottom. You need to figure this out ASAP. So I parked my car in their weird little parking lot that they got. And I walked to the front door, and I'm almost in tears. And the Sharon at the front desk, she's very helpful. She's very sweet. And I'm like, do you have any space? Do you have any space now? And she's like, well, let me check. And I'm like, well, and I'm just anxious for her to get an answer to me. She hands me a form to fill out, and she comes back and says, we have space. And my heart just started jumping with joy. I was like, oh my goodness. And so I filled out the form, like, well, can he start now? Can I go back home and get him and bring him back? And she's like, no, we gotta, we gotta talk to the teachers first, and let the students know that there's a new student coming. So and then Patrice walks out of the room. I'm like, who's that? I'm like, you guys got blacks on staff here? What? So she walks out, and I'm just like ecstatic. And then I see Sharon, and I'm like, what? And this is perfect. Because us being African American and Trillium being a predominantly white school, it is so important for me as a black mother and a black child to see ourselves being represented. Then there's a black math teacher. I mean, I was just ecstatic. I was. I went home, and we waited very impatiently for the next 2 days. And then we set him off to school. And his first day home from school, he busts, because my older son went to pick him up and brought him home. He busts out the car, went to the front door. Mom, I love my new school. The kids are just like me. I said, okay, we finally found a place that we can call home. We have been fighting with schools and school systems and the education system for the last few years now. And we have been, our spirits have been very unsettled, and no rest in our spirits, just fighting this battle. And just what we went through recently with the bullying just broke us down. And for my son to come home and say, I found a place and they're just like me, that meant something to me. And he's happy. He loves doing his homework. What kid? I mean, he's an 8th grade boy. You know, he stinks and he wants to play basketball. You know what I'm saying? But he loves doing his homework. Like, if he loves coming home and talking about the things that he's learning in school, and that's something to me. So I want you to consider that in our story when you're making these choices and decisions. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hello. I don't feel like I can kind of follow that. Mostly because what I'm hearing over and over is such a heart, and that doesn't need a follow-up. My name is Jessica Martin Weber. We have been, as a family, at Trillium for almost 5 years. I'm the mother of 7 children, ages 1 to 20. Over the course of parenting, I have been a part of 12 schools, 3 of which I was on staff as a music teacher. I have worked in a number of nonprofit organizations, and several years ago, when the organization I was a part of, which fights human trafficking and the sex trade, we went through a huge shift in leadership, and the director that came in was a pain in the butt. And he irritated me in every possible way, and in frustration, I went to someone I trust as a mentor, and I expressed how irritating this leader was. And what he said to me that day was, Jessica, if you ever find the perfect place, you better leave it, because you're going to ruin it. And I say that because Trillium isn't perfect. It is, in fact, so flawed. But if any single one of us were judged on our worthiness based entirely on our flaws and on data on a piece of paper, not a single one would get a resounding vote. Not a single one of us. Trillium is a community that lives and breathes and has highs and lows and aches and triumphs. And we've been there for almost 5 years, and we have seen changes that have impacted our family in ways that I am so incredibly grateful for. My oldest 3 children have been homeschooled. They're off, headed to college and all of that stuff. They were homeschooled because we were in Houston, Texas at the time, and we could not find a school that fit our family. And not because of academic reasons. To be frank, my children will do well in just about any academic environment. They are not in need of special academic consideration. However, my 2 oldest are survivors of sexual assault, and we could not find a place that understood trauma-informed care and education. And for my family, though those students have moved on and don't need Trillium, my family still does. And I'm not here just for my family. I am here to ask, who does it benefit to close Trillium? I am vehemently opposed to closing Trillium, though my family would do fine going elsewhere. But because I want my home, my family, my education home to be a place that is truly inclusive, where my students, my daughter's first week at Trillium, she had to learn how, as a neurotypical student, to manage and work with neurodivergent students. She was 8, and she came home and explained to me how her new friend was making things disruptive in the classroom, but his brain worked differently. And they all worked together as a class to help him succeed. And you know what she said to me at 8 years old, thanks to Trillium? When those of us that struggle have the space to do well, Mommy, we all can do well. I believe that it is not just those represented here that will suffer if Trillium closes. I believe that the very neighborhood where Trillium is based will suffer. I believe that this very city will suffer. I believe that Oregon will suffer. I believe this country will suffer. We've heard today of people who've moved across the country to be here. We all benefit. Yes, there have been struggles. We have lived them. We have seen them. And lastly, last year, we went through a bullying experience as a family that was really difficult, and Trillium struggled with figuring out how to handle it. This year, we had the opportunity to do it again, and we thrived through it. My children know how to peacefully come to the table and find resolutions that strengthen not only them, but those that may be struggling in different ways from them. No academic education, however superior it may be, can replace the education of social enlightenment and emotional intelligence. And that's why my family chose Trillium. And to close it would be a grave mistake that would hurt all of us, not just those that showed up today. So thank you, because I do believe what Trillium has taught my 8-year-old. When those of us who struggle do well, we all do well.
My name is Abraham Fatmeyer. I'm 9, almost 10.
Hang on one second, Abraham. Talking to the microphone.
I go to school at Trillium for almost 5 years, and I'm in 4th grade. I don't want the school to close. I feel like the school is special. It's very protective and welcoming to everyone. I feel like the school works hard to help people learn at their own pace. I have friends here, and I feel like they're very nice, but if Trillium closes, I won't have those friends there anymore. I feel like the school really just helps people, and it lets me do my own types of things that I felt like were just better for me, and I like them. An example of the time I thought a class was like too easy for me, so I asked the teachers if I could do some other things, and they heard that, and I got to do the sort of thing that I think is fun. And one time I had to do some easier things, and I like to learn. I'm glad they let me. I feel like Trillium for me is what I like, and it helped me learn, and I like to learn. I'm glad that at Trillium I'm able to do that kind of thing. It feels really nice. I really hope that Trillium gets another chance to be a school and help students learn. And that's why I hope Trillium doesn't close.
Thank you, Abraham.
You know, I just want to say that Trillium is a very unique school. Earlier today, I was teaching a class on developmental psychology, specifically covering early childhood and middle childhood. And one of the things that we were specifically talking about today was social and emotional development. And I think what you're hearing today is that Trillium takes that very seriously. And when you look at the social and emotional development of children, if there is not a safe space, specifically in early and middle childhood, learning doesn't happen. Information processing does not happen. Retention does not happen. And on top of that, you're talking about kids who are already vulnerable, but they're learning how to learn. And that's the most important thing. I think back to my childhood. I was that kid in 2nd grade that was getting tested for dyslexia and ADHD. And that was back in the era where, like, if that was your diagnosis, you got to go stay in the little room in the back of the school where nobody else saw you. And I was fortunate. In Green Bay at that time, there was what was called an alternative school, and I went to Aldo Leopold for 3 years, where I learned how to learn. Obviously, when I went to a more traditional school, because you know, when your grandparents are named Mary and Joseph and you're Irish, you do not get out of the all-girls Catholic school. You just don't. So I went from that environment to a very rigid environment. And without having those 3 years, I don't know if I would have went to college. I don't know if I would have went to grad school. But knowing how to learn is what is at the basis of higher education. And we talk about Oregon and the high school dropout rate. You know, Measure 98, that's all about high school, but we all know, if you're in education or human development, we all know that dropout prevention starts in grade school.
Thank you. Thank you. So we have some time. Karen, I think we're at the point for question and answers. Should we move to that, or where are we? Yeah, so we're going to move to the question and answers. If people want to ask questions of us, or if any of the committee has questions that they want to ask of the school staff. Do you have any questions? Okay. Does anyone have any questions that they want to ask of our committee? If we don't, then we can take some more testimony. Do you have a question? Come on up. Welcome.
I'm sure you're aware of this, but just putting it out there that the Trillium High School actually has better, significantly better grades than average, and just, I'm sure you're aware of this already, but it's just, I feel like it needs.
No, you.
I feel like it needs to be emphasized, because it's like, I understand that like we're a whole school, and so the whole school has to be judged on all that stuff, and like, okay.
Can you tell us your name?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
I did
okay.
Not, Samuel Felonius Bott. I am a junior at Trillium Charter School. I don't normally dress like this. I wore this suit because we had tests today, and also I was planning to go to this.
You look sharp.
But I just feel like, of course, the whole school should be measured, but I feel like it's clear that at least in at least the high school is doing well, and I feel like, I don't know where else to go with this, but just
We hear you.
Keep it in mind.
We hear you,
Peace.
And just to be clear, the plan of improvement and the data that we're charged with reviewing doesn't include the high school. The high school wasn't included on that because you were doing better. Patrice? Yes. Yes.
Sorry. In my presentation earlier, I did ask you guys 3 questions, and I would like a little bit of accountability for that. I'm just curious, like, what can I do to get MAPS at my school? MAPS is the interim assessments that we need to be seeing how our teaching is going. And I asked for that. It was promised to me. There's been some staff changes at PPS. I still don't have it. PPS has paid for it. You guys have extra accounts. I would like to know how I could get MAPS. I'd also like to know how I could get support around getting SPED better serviced at my school. I have a high percentage of students that need SPED support, and I don't want to go the route of inciting the parents. You know, I want to go the route of like working with PPS as a partnership.
But you do have SPED staff provided
yes,
by the district,
but there's been
right?
challenges around that, and I don't want to go into people's positions and what specifically those are. I would invite you to email me directly, but I've had difficulty scheduling meetings, getting some accountability and productivity around SPED. We are held to those standards when you guys look at our testing data, and I'm interested in addressing those as they were outlined in the improvement plan.
And just to be clear, so the plan of improvement started in January, and the data that we have is only from June.
You guys were looking at data from
other than the prior 2 years, which put you into the plan of improvement.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So we don't have any kind of assessment data from this fall.
From
you don't
this
have
fall?
maps. Yeah.
Yeah. But I still need support with SPED.
Yes,
so
absolutely. Yeah.
I don't want to sidestep that.
I will make a commitment to you to follow up on that with staff to at least so that we're better educated about where that is and
please.
If there's any opportunity to facilitate the support that you're requesting, we'll do so. And
Okay.
you had a third
and
question?
then my third question is, how is equity going to be built into your decision making when I've had a very limited amount of time to equally raise the test scores as the person had before me to drop the test scores?
And my response to that is that prior to our board hearing, I would like to ask staff to just discuss the data prior to the 2 years that kicked this into the plan of improvement, and what the response of the district was. We do have the prior years of data on here, but whether there were any different standards applied in those prior years than what we're seeing here. And we don't have to do that now, but unless.
And to what degree were they held accountable, and why wasn't the school recommended for closure then?
Okay, so the expectations applied are not different. And it's a state rubric. Tara, if you would like to, you can come forward and address this question, or you can provide that information to the board when we have our hearing. It's up to you.
We are happy to provide it now, but I do just want to honor that we saw a couple other questions if there's time.
Okay. Do we have a couple? Okay. Thanks. But we will follow up on that. Thank you very much. Because, okay. Who has a couple questions? Come on up.
Hello, everybody.
Hi,
Few of you I know.
welcome.
My name is Cynthia Harris, and I'm the second VP for the NAACP. So my questions center around, there's a lot of support, seem like, for the families and the students, but the principal is saying, you have demonstrated to me that you don't want me to succeed. How will you interrupt the perpetual institutional racism? I came to this table by way of a parent that I coach, and the parent was very concerned about the principal being African American and not getting the support. So the question I would ask, what kind of coaching has been provided? What kind of mentoring? And are we listening? And if you've noticed, the room is pretty white, and it's very difficult to be an African American and have your voice heard. And I would like for you to consider this support that should be given to Patrice at this time. I'm willing to volunteer. I will continue to listen to the parent that brought me to this room. I have a tremendous amount of experience, but I'm not sure I would know how to coach in this particular situation. So I would ask that some consideration be given to race issues. I will report back to the president of the NAACP that I have attended this meeting and that our voice is going to be heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harris.
Hi, our names are Jordan and Ivy. My question is, why did you guys give Patrice such a shortage of time when you guys gave the last executive director, how much time? 6 years, Patrice? When you gave him 6 years, you only gave her 6 months to do so.
So one of the things I want to say that's difficult for us is that the rules around charter schools and performance are very specifically laid out by the state. And so we are just put in the position of reviewing the achievement data, and then when there are issues with achievement, there are very prescribed steps that as a district and as a school board we're supposed to follow. So we are going to follow up on that question as we just discussed with Patrice, but it is my understanding that the same expectations are being applied now that have been applied to the prior administration. But Patrice, I'm saying that's my understanding at this moment, but for me personally, I want to learn more about that and make sure that that's the case as well. So we're operating within a pretty strict set of rules. But I understand.
What are you going to do? What are you going to do with all the misplaced students? Because there are so many students who love it here who would not do very well at other schools. What are you going to do with them? How are you going to be placing them?
Yeah,
because
that's really true. We don't have a lot of schools in PBS that are open for a lot of more kids because there's already so many kids going there because there is a lot of kids that are already in the PPS system. What are you going to do to the kids that are going to start getting bullied at the other schools? What are you guys going to do when you guys start getting complaints because of it?
The school I went to previously was so overcrowded that when you moved in the hallways, it was so crowded. It was like sardines.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine. I personally am in 8th grade, and I'm going to be going to a different high school. But for all the other kids going to a different school that's so much more packed is going to be very hard. What are you going to help? How are you going to help them?
Well, I don't want to have a conversation that assumes that there's a decision that's already been made. But I will tell you that when we had our hearing a couple of weeks ago, our deputy superintendent spoke to this issue and said, of course, reiterated, of course, that all students have a right to attend their neighborhood school, but not just that, but that the district would work really hard to provide supports if we come to a time when kids have to transition to a new school, and also really taking to heart the kind of supports that have been important to students in Trillium. But I don't want to speak in the past tense or, suggest in any way that we have reached a decision or conclusion here. But thanks.
Do you guys know what you guys are going to do with all the LGBTQ and trans students that are going to transfer to other schools and possibly get bullied?
Again, we don't know. I mean, I hear you. I hear your fear, but we don't know where we'll end up on this question. Thank you.
I want to thank you guys for letting us have this meeting.
Thank you for coming. Welcome.
My name is Zio River, and I just want to ask, well, who does this benefit? Because it doesn't benefit the schools, it doesn't benefit you guys any way that I know of. I can't think of anyone who it does benefit, and it's taking away stuff. And people.
Yeah. I think we hear you. We hear
you. Who does it benefit?
We're not, the question that we're asked to respond to in this process is just around the performance of the school and whether it's meeting the standards that are set out before us. I'm not saying you're asking the wrong question, but that's not the question that we're being asked to resolve. But I hear your concerns.
Hi, my name is Holden Horowitz. I am in 8th grade. I go to Trillium also. Well, no, because it doesn't affect me personally, but it could affect other kids if you have schools around your neighborhood and you got banned from there or something, all the schools around. Not hating to do that, but if it does happen, then you can't homeschool the kid, then what's gonna happen?
Yeah, I really don't want to get into scenarios about what ifs when we haven't reached a conclusion, but I do want to say that our deputy superintendent at our last meeting really made a commitment that if we are to arrive at that place, that the district will bring all kinds of supports forward and really recognizes all the questions and fears that people are bringing forward. And I'll say that personally, I will make sure that the district follows through on really working with students and families on the right solutions and the right schools. But we're not there. We're not there. But thank you. Karen, where are we on time?
I was gonna speak again, but they didn't.
Well, this is sort of still the Q&A, but I mean just as a whole, we're devolving from the Q&A into public comment. So maybe just if anyone else actually has a question that they want to bring forward, I think we could take. You guys, you're looking expectantly. Do you have something? Oh, if anyone has a question that they want to bring forward, please do so, and then we need to wrap it up. Okay. Do you want to give an opportunity for someone else to come forward since you already testified? In here?
No, somewhere else, but Dr. Rosa and
Okay. Right now at 5:30?
No, at 5.
Yeah. So we'll have one more question, and then we will have to adjourn, and we have a committee member that has somewhere else to go. So.
Anyways, what are you going to do? Are they going to try to are they going to try to close more schools?
We don't have any recommendations to close any more schools, so this is just what we're considering today. This is what we're being asked to consider today. But thank you very much for coming, and thank you all for coming.
I did want to put the one question that I asked during my statement, which was what support was specifically provided to Trillium Charter School in the period of the improvement plan as budgeted by PPS as shown from your reports. That
And
is
we,
the question.
we do have some information on that in our staff report, but if we need to provide more detail on that, I know we can get that from our charter office. All right, I think we're going to have to adjourn, but thank you all for being here. I know this is difficult. We really appreciate you taking the time to come, especially all you kids, and for sharing your stories and your experiences with us.
Save our school.
Thank you. Thank you.